morning, Deputy.
Good morning.
If you feel you can do so safely and responsibly, testifying without your mask would be the preference here, if you're able to do that.
Sure.
And thank you so much. Go right ahead, counsel.
Good morning. Could you please state your name for the record, spelling both your first and last names?
Deputy Erik Schneider, E-R-I-K-S-C-H-N-E-I-D-E-R.
How are you employed?
I'm employed with the Dane County Sheriff's Office as a patrol deputy out of the Southeast Precinct and a member of the Dane County Sheriff's Office Crime Scene Unit.
Tell me about that. What does that mean, that you're a member of the Dane County Sheriff's Crime Scene Unit?
My full-time position is patrol, but we also have some people that assist the two primary crime scene unit deputies, Greg Leatherberry and Jim Plenty. So if they are unavailable or there's a particularly large or complicated scene, I will come out and I will work with them.
Have you gone through any training to become part of the crime scene unit?
I have.
Can you just briefly describe that for the jury?
There's a state crime lab evidence school that I attended, a 5-day, week-long school. There's an additional state lab photography course. I've done additional training, a buried body course that we put on ourselves. Off the top of my head, that's additional training.
And as part of that training, learning how to collect items of evidence in a way that is both safe but also preserves the evidence?
Yes.
All right, I think I will ask you a little bit about that individually. I'm now going to approach you with some photos, exhibit 144 through 157. In this case in particular, one of the ways in which you worked as a crime scene unit deputy was at the Irwin property.
Yes.
Okay. Could you just briefly look through exhibits 144 through 157? And as a group, would you describe exhibits 144 through 157 as photographs of the Irwin Road property during the search?
Yes.
Or at least some of them?
Yes.
There's many more. Do they appear to be true and accurate photographs?
Yes.
I would move 144 through 157 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received.
And I will leave them up here in case you need to reference them. But what I'm going to play on the screen will also show up on your little screen. Okay. So how would you describe exhibit 108 on your screen? Oh, I'm sorry, Judge.
Now, the property in question had a large barn or a shed. The immediate area around it was mowed, and beyond that was a large area of like prairie and a wood line. This is a section of the mowed grass butting up against that prairie to the south of the barn.
And do you see an oil drum in that photograph?
Yes.
How would you describe exhibit 109?
There was a cut, I think you see there an odd-shaped cut on the north side of that oil drum, and inside were some items.
And 110 shows some of those items inside?
Yes, a saw blade, a scissors, and a smaller saw with like a chrome or a metal handle, and a bolt cutters.
All right, And that's 112.
Or shears, yes.
All right. How did you package these various items? So let's start first with 139, which is the pruning shears. How did you collect and package them?
So at that time, I had CSI Greg Leatherberry with me. He made a determination we were going to remove the items, and it just so happened that my arm span was long enough that I could reach them because they were deep inside the oil drum. So just using regular nitrile evidence gloves, I reached in, I was able to pull them out one at a time without touching areas that looked like they had stains. We laid them out on paper, and then CSI Leatherberry collected them in whatever packaging he used.
And why do you wear gloves?
To preserve the evidence, to keep it from either losing evidence or us from contaminating it.
And do you change your gloves in between touching different items?
Depending, yes.
And every time, well, I'm going to approach you now with Exhibit 139. These are the pruning shears. Yep. Okay. And Exhibit 139 has various stickers on it. Are some of those stickers, though, identification stickers from your office?
Yes.
And why is that done?
Anything that is taken and put into evidence will have a unique tag number cataloging it.
Okay. And this appears to have all the correct stickers.
It does.
I'm going to ask you to open Exhibit 139. There. So. And Deputy, you're going to write a report after testifying here today. Is that fair? Because
After?
you are opening up evidence?
Yes.
And why do you do that?
It's just to preserve the chain of custody.
So anytime anybody opens up a box or an envelope that has evidence tape on it, a report is written about that encounter with the evidence.
Yes.
There's also a little knife if you prefer that.
Would this be a good point for the stipulation on chain of custody?
Yes, that's fine.
As the deputy is opening this item of evidence, with regard to much of the physical evidence here, the parties have entered into a stipulation, which I'll read to you at this time. Once again, in this case, the district attorney and defendant's attorneys have stipulated to the following facts. Throughout the investigation into the deaths of Bart and Krista Halderson, many pieces of evidence were collected from the Halderson home, the Earlywine Road property, and the Roxbury, Wisconsin River land. These items of evidence were securely transported to various locations, including the medical examiner's office, the crime lab, to police evidence lockers, and ultimately to the courtroom. In some cases, there is a dispute that the evidence was not handled correctly, or that there is some dispute to the authenticity of the evidence. That is not the case here. The parties stipulate that there is no dispute to the chain of custody or authenticity of these items of evidence. The parties stipulate these items have remained in secure custody since being collected by police and have not been tampered with or altered in any way outside of the testing performed by the experts involved in this case. These items of evidence include the following. Number one, the human remains located at Earlywine Road and in the town of Roxbury. Number two, all items collected from the Earlywine Road property. Number three, all items collected from the Halderson home in Windsor, Wisconsin. Number four, all items of evidence tested by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab for DNA, fingerprints, footwear impressions, ballistics, and trace fit testing. And finally, number five, all swabs of purported DNA and blood, including the DNA sample taken from Chandler Halderson and Mitchell Halderson. Go ahead.
Deputy, could you please describe Exhibit 139? You can unwrap it further if you need to.
Do you want me to remove it from the ties as well?
Why don't you just describe it first?
The item in question is the large pruning shears, I guess they are, with red paint on the handle.
And do those appear to be the same or in substantially the same condition as when you retrieved them from the Irwin Road property?
Yes.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 139 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received. It may be published.
All right. Are they connected to the box or just no? Okay. Deputy, why don't you pick those up out of the box? Watch your step, but walk them in front of the jury, please. All right. If you want to put them back in the box. This is 140. Okay, thank you. And Deputy, I'm now approaching you with what has been marked as Exhibit 140. Could you please open up Exhibit 140? Okay. How would you describe Exhibit 140?
Exhibit 140 is the smaller saw that we saw in the picture of the oil drum with the chrome-colored handle.
And is it in substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 140 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
And I would ask that you repeat the same procedure and show the jury.
It's still tied in. Would you like me to remove it all the way?
Yeah, if it's not too difficult.
Attorney Raymond, I wonder if we move the water pitcher, if it might give the deputy a little more room.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. And if you want to place that one back in the box, 140. And I'll give you a minute to change your gloves. Here's a loose can. Now I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 141. Could you please open up the box and tell us what 141 is?
Exhibit 141 is the broken saw blade from that oil drum that we saw in the picture.
And is it in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
I would move Exhibit 141 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
Okay. I think this one could probably stay in the box, but do you want to display that to the jury, please? If you want to close that box and change your gloves. I'm not going to change my gloves because I'm just handling the box. Could you please open Exhibit 142? And how would you describe Exhibit 142?
Exhibit 142 is the scissors with the red handle from inside the drum.
Are they in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected them?
They are.
I would ask to move 142 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
And again, will you display for the jury? That's the last piece of physical evidence for the moment. If you just want to remove your gloves, that would be fine. Deputy, did you participate at any point in the search of the barn or shed, as it's been called, on the Irwin Road property?
Yes.
And would you describe Exhibit 144 as displayed on your screen?
Exhibit 144 is the large barn or shed in question that you're talking about.
And Exhibit 145, what does it display?
A portion of the interior of the barn.
There's lots of stuff in the barn.
There is a lot of stuff in the barn.
Exhibit 146, what does 146 display?
146 is probably the eastern portion of the barn. The two entrances face north-south to the barn. So if you're coming in from the north, which faces the house, to your left would be this area.
And 147, what does that display?
147 is a silver gray colored tarp that was located, I believe the night of the 8th, the first night we were at the property.
So that was the night that the torso was discovered?
Correct.
And is it fair to say this was found during like a cursory search of the barn?
Yes, while we were waiting for the search warrant to be finalized, we had the medical examiner's office out there, and the director, Erman, had his canine. So while we were waiting, we thought we would utilize the canine while we had it to see if it could find anything, and it led us directly to that tarp.
And of course, at this point, Crest had given you folks permission to be on her
Yes.
property and search. All right. 148, what does that display?
That is the same tarp after we removed it from where we located it.
Let me just go back and ask you one question. The dog that medical director Erman had, was that a cadaver canine dog?
I believe his is, yes.
149, what is displayed on Exhibit 149?
The same tarp, just from a different angle. You can see the beginning of some red staining there.
150,
We're starting to slowly unfold it, and again, more red staining. So I think at that point or shortly thereafter, we stop, because we believe it has evidentiary value and wouldn't want to ruin it or contaminate it on scene.
so why did you stop?
That should be something that's processed in a more controlled environment. We had a lot going on there, so we weren't going to unravel that in the middle of a dirt floor and begin processing it there. That's something that'll be done later in a lab.
Sure, so it was sent to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
I believe that one was.
It's not opening it, correct? Yep, okay. And I'm actually just gonna touch the bag, so. Deputy, I'm gonna show you what has been marked as Exhibit 143. There are various stickers. Are there stickers on Exhibit 143 from your office?
Yes.
And do any of those stickers tell you what is inside of Exhibit 143?
Yes.
Okay, and do those all appear to be in order?
They do.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 143 into evidence,
No objection.
It is received.
and we are not going to open 143 at this time. I will put it over here, though. And Deputy, were you made aware in October of 2021 that after the sheriff's office had finished their investigation of the Irwin Road property, the homeowner found a rifle?
Yes.
Okay. How would you describe Exhibit 151?
An interior portion of the shed. As you can see, there's just a lot of clutter and various objects.
152?
That would be the western side of the barn. There's a large trailer, and around it you can just see all kinds of various items and clutter.
153?
That'd be the northwest corner of the barn. Large number of tools and old saw blades and that kind of stuff.
As a member of the crime scene unit, do buildings with this amount of material in it pose any obstacles in doing a search?
They do, particularly at this time. Our resources were at a premium as we had a primary crime scene now at the scene of the residence in Windsor.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 154. Could you just briefly describe 154?
An overall shot of the size and interior of the barn.
155?
From that same corner, facing south across, you can see there's a second tractor behind that one and a vehicle near the entrance of the barn.
156?
More views are taken from across the other side inside the barn, just detailing rows of objects and items.
157?
A view looking north from the south entrance, looking back, and you can see the second trailer more clearly, and just a lot of piles of wood and debris.
Exhibit 70?
This was taken in October after the owner had been clearing out the barn. Objects were removed, and you can see there is now a black rifle propped up alongside those boards.
And I'm using the laser pointer. Deputy, can you turn your head? Am I identifying the right area where the rifle is located on Exhibit 70?
Yes.
And just for the record, that is slightly left of middle. Exhibit 71?
Just a closer view of the rifle.
And that rifle, is it your understanding that that rifle was found behind some boards?
Yes.
172? Or, I'm sorry, 72.
Just another closer view of the rifle. I just took overall and photographs and continuing all the way up to the rifle itself.
And what is picture 73 a picture of?
A close-up of the rifle, which shows the serial number on the upper portion.
If you want to glove up. Okay, got it. Thank you. Deputy, I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 291. This end is much heavier. I would ask at this time that you open Exhibit 291 for yourself and view what is inside.
As this process is going on, I'll just let the jury know that obviously Randy is becoming involved in this part. He's responsible for the security of this room, so anytime, whether for evidentiary purposes or not, there's a firearm brought into this space, he takes a keen interest and role in that for everyone's safety and security.
And Deputy, could you just tell me what Exhibit 291 is?
This is that same black rifle we saw in the photographs.
That you collected at the Irwin Road property hidden behind a board?
Correct. It is a Norinco SKS 76 by 39 caliber rifle.
And is it in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, it is a red dot sight and a camouflage colored strap on it.
I would move Exhibit 291 into evidence at this time,
No
Any
objection.
No objection that is received.
and we'll give Randy a minute to secure it.
Thank you, Randy.
Deputy, if you would take Exhibit 291 out of the box and display it carefully for the jury. Thank you. If you want to put it back in the box. Randy, did you want to take ownership of it, or? Okay. Scissors. Thank you. The box, because the tape is undone, the box is not perfectly closed. Deputy, did you attend the autopsy of Mr. Halderson's torso?
I did.
And that occurred at the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 553 and 554. I'm not going to ask you to remove these from the boxes or anything, but based on the markings that are on 553 and 554, could you please identify them?
Item 553 is a jacket and fragment that was retrieved from the rear neck area of the torso. And item 554 is additional fragments from a bullet retrieved from the abdomen.
And those were retrieved from the torso by the medical examiner during the autopsy.
Correct.
I would move Exhibits 553 and 554 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
They are received.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good morning, Deputy.
Good morning.
Now, you, just so I'm clear, you searched this barn or shed at the Irwin address a couple of times?
There was an official search on the 12th that some detectives did, yes.
And there was a cursory search the night of the finding of the torso?
I wouldn't even call it a search, but yeah, like a walk around and the canine went through it.
Were you there for both of these events?
Yes.
Did you participate in the search? And I understand the first one may not have been technically the kind of search we're talking about, but did you participate both times in looking for things in that shed?
I documented the search by photographing it. I did not search per se myself.
Now, the first time, how many people were looking around that barn?
You're talking the first night on the 8th?
Yes.
4 of us, I believe.
And the second time, how many people were looking around that barn?
Without looking at the log, I don't recall who was all there, maybe 6?
And each time before looking or before searching, is it fair to say that discussions were had and a plan was made as to how to do the search and what things in particular would be notable?
Yes,
So for example, you might want to say, let's look for footprints or shoe impressions, correct?
as an example.
In this case, you knew about the torso with the gunshots before the second search, correct?
Yes,
So is it fair to say that one strategy for this search would be to look for any firearms, correct?
yes,
Now, I heard you say that resources were at a premium around the time of the second search. Did I get that correct?
yes.
The sheriff's department, or you in particular, between that moment when resources were at a premium and October, when this firearm was found in the barn, you didn't go back to search further, correct?
I did not. I can't tell you if there were additional searches.
There's no sheriff's department rules or protocol that would prevent anyone from going back and searching again, correct?
Well, we would, I mean, if we were going to do that, we would either need the permission of the homeowner or an additional search warrant. Given the circumstances, we would have procured another warrant anyway.
And you obtained both of those the first time, right?
When I was there, yes.
Now, you took possession of the firearm, the SKS that was found in that barn, correct?
Yes,
So you physically lifted it up from its location, is that right?
yes,
Are you familiar with something called a flash suppressor?
no.
That's all I have, thank you.
Any redirect?
No,
May this witness be excused
yes,
and released?
no.
All right, you're excused from testifying further today, sir. Thank you very much. Have a good